Good evening and welcome to Touch by Prayer. How are you guys? I'm so excited to have my spiritual dad, my pops, as some people like to call him, Michael Fram. So let me just say a quick hello to the chat. Give a few minutes. Make sure that you share this broadcast, because have you ever had the misunderstanding of what a spiritual father looks like, or have you ever wanted to know or to have a spiritual father? And what is the purpose of a spiritual father or mother? There is such a great purpose, because there are things that we can learn from the generations that have gone before. I've learned so much from Pops or from Papa Mike, as I actually like to call him. And he has taught me, he has shown me so many different things. He's helped to mature me in many ways. He has listened to me, has been a guest, has been a friend, has been a confidant, has been that person that I go to whenever I have any kind of questions, and I say, okay, does this make any sense? Does this sound biblical? Does that make any sense? Or whatever it is, he's always been that person for me. So I'm very excited that he's writing a book. And the book is actually called From Father to Sons. And it basically is his beautiful relationship that he has with his dad, who I definitely call Papa Fram. So I'm going to bring over Michael. Thank you guys for coming on. Make sure that you share the broadcast. I see some special people in the house. Hi, Renee. Love you. I'm sure that Ron is sitting right next to you. So, hi. Hey, Pops. How are you?
Yeah, and I see Derek Lynn is here.
I saw Derek Lynn.
Mm-hmm. And I see my son James in Kansas is here. So, wow, this is quite exciting. Yeah,
I
Renee,
know.
he is. What a surprise! Ronnie G is sitting next to Renee.
I know. We love Ron. Hi, Ron. I miss you guys. I'm gonna have to. I think I need some Jolson time. That's what I call it. That's what I do. I'm like, I need some Jolson time. That's what I need. And then I'll give a phone call, and then we get together, because they have just been, they're just such an awesome couple and family, or family, as you like to call. And actually, what we call you here at the Perna household is we call you the Framinator.
Yeah. Well, we can thank Tracy Mahalik for that.
Yes, we can. We love Tracy Mahalik, but that is what she calls you, because sometimes you get some stuff, and that's one of the things, is that there have been times that I have been told I sound like you. I'm just saying. Imagine that. So let's see. You have been on Touch by Prayer since 2015, correct? Or was it in 2014 that you came?
Was it 14 or 15? I'm not sure. I know we were doing
one
radio
of those oldies
then.
But goodies. Yeah.
It was around your dining room table.
Yep.
And we had the soundboard set up.
Yep.
And Rob was manning the sound, and you had the mics with weights on the bottom so they wouldn't fall over. and windscreens in front of the mics.
Yep.
And the first time you had me talking about the prophetic, and I happened to use the term prophesy, and Rob just lost it. And he's been my friend ever since.
To this day, he does. He says, "Who are you having?" I said, "I'm having Michael Fram." He goes, "Oh, the Framinator's coming on. No more prophesying for." He's smiling. He's smiling and laughing over here.
Well, that's how you know it's family.
It is family, because you can laugh at stuff. Okay, so I'm going to take off my glasses, but let's go ahead. So you have been doing Touch by Prayer for quite a long time. You are the first person who actually recognized some of the gifting, I guess, that were placed inside of me. And I'll never forget, I think it might have been the second time that you came on Touch by Prayer, and I felt a little bit more comfortable. And I said, so what is God saying about me? And you kind of went into this whole thing, and I just kind of looked at you like a deer in the headlights, because I was like, I don't know what you just said. And he said, let's put it this way. You ain't cooked yet. You said that this is exactly what you said. You said you're in the incubator and God is doing something. And I was like, okay. And he goes, what I'm saying is you ain't cooked yet. You got more cooking to do.
That sounds about like me.
That's about right. And so ever since then, anytime I've had any questions, I've had any concerns, I've always been able to go to you. And I've always felt very confident in whatever you told me, because I knew that you came from a line of no nonsense, get in your face kind of pastors who are passionate and who really are trying to train people up into what they're called to be. And that would be Papa Fram. See, I can't call you Papa Fram because there is a Papa Fram.
Well, yeah, he's the original Papa Fram.
He is the original Papa Fram. He is the original. And also Mama Fram.
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time that I would not be who I am or what I am if it wasn't for Leo and Edith Fram and what they have poured into me. And there's certain things that I got from my mom, and there's certain things that I got from my dad. Can I read you something?
Sure.
I actually read this to my mom and dad at our board meeting a couple of weeks ago, and all three of us were crying.
Aww.
As I read this, and if I get choked up, well, I used to be the screaming evangelist. I'm becoming the mushy apostle in my old age. So, but this is the dedication in this book. And I wrote, this book is dedicated to my parents, Apostles Leo and Edith Fram. I often say that if it weren't for both of them and what they poured into my life, I would not be who or what I am today. Although I focus to a great extent on the things that Dad imparted to me, I would be remiss if I did not also recognize and honor my mom. What an awesome example of a sound Bible teacher and godly mother she has exhibited. Quite often through the years, I have said that I got the teach from mom and the preach from dad. Truth be told, I am privileged and honored to be their son. They both have always wanted me to excel and far exceed them. This is where I start getting mushy. In the early days of my ministry, other leaders accepted me because I was Leo and Edith's son. However, about 10 to 12 years ago, it was mom who pushed me to begin to separate myself from them and establish my own identity. I was extremely reluctant to do this because I felt it would be dishonoring them in some way. Mom insisted that establishing my own identity was not dishonoring them. I am so grateful that she really pressed the issue. If she hadn't, I am not sure I would have stretched and grown in all the ways that I was intended to and have. I know not everyone is born to godly parents like I was. I absolutely consider myself fortunate and blessed to have received the impartation, encouragement, and example to follow of both my parents. I am forever grateful. I honor you, Mom and Dad, your firstborn son, Michael.
Aw, I know. I read it and I was like, aw. Aw.
Sorry.
I love that you wrote your firstborn son. Because there is a blessing in the firstborn. I'm just saying. There's a blessing in the firstborn.
Yeah, there is.
Mm-hmm. So you have a sister? I know that, but do you also have a brother?
I have two sisters, one older, one younger, and I
Mm,
have a brother that is younger.
you do have a brother. Okay. I knew about the sisters, but I wasn't quite sure about the brother. But I thought that was beautiful. And your parents are the sweetest, kindest, so encouraging, so loving, always ready for big hugs whenever I see them. And they get they're happy when they see me, and so it's kind of like I'm around grandparents. That's kind of how I feel, and I guess that kind of makes sense because of our relationship, because I guess I'm your firstborn.
Well, you are my first spiritual child.
Hmm.
I have many spiritual children now,
Yes.
but you were the first. And I think we kind of practiced on each other, in all honesty. And, I didn't totally know how to be a spiritual father, and you didn't know how to be a spiritual daughter,
No. Mm-mm.
but we figured it out in the process.
Hmm. We did.
And, I brag on you regularly. And, I talk to folks a lot. You are a great sermon illustration, or a source of sermon illustrations.
Oh boy.
And even just recently at the Love and Unity conference in Oklahoma that I was at, as I was talking about the heart of the Father, and I ended up closing the conference, I pulled a lot of reference both from this book that's forthcoming, as well as from my relationship with you. And
Now you're gonna make me cry.
and what I walk through with you, and helping you through some of those hard seasons in your life, and kind of holding your hand, and when you wanted to quit and when you wanted to throw in the towel. And I remember at one point you said to me, "Do I have to do this?" And I said, "No, you don't have to. But you'll never fulfill the destiny that God has for you if you don't." And
And then what did I do?
real matter of fact, you said, "Oh shoot. Now that means I gotta do it."
I got to do it. Got to do it. Yep. Yep. And I think that it was interesting because when we first kind of started to develop a friendship, and see, that's where I want to kind of talk about, because reading your book, I got a sneak peek, but it really talked about the relationship that you have with your dad and with your mom. Like it, because we have a parental relationship where the parent is like the overseer, and is basically on top of the children. But then there comes a time where then you kind of walk together in friendship, but not everybody has that, and especially when it comes to spiritual things, because sometimes somebody's off on this way and somebody's off on this way, but your parents and you have managed to basically walk together and walk hand in hand.
Yeah, that's very much so. And, mom and dad, they knew things about me long before I ever did. They knew where I was going, they knew what I was doing. And there's a chapter in the book that's titled, "It's About Time You Figured It Out." And Lisa, this must have been like deja vu for you when you read your sneak peek of the book, because I know you saw yourself in your dealing with me and how
Hmm.
I handled it,
Hmm.
because that's how, my dad worked with me.
Yep.
And, we have a mutual friend, Danny, and
Hmm.
Danny's forever saying, "Yeah, Pops knows stuff, but he don't say nothing." And so,
Yep.
just so folks kind of get a sense of where I'm coming from with this, is when I was about 17 years old, and I started in ministry at 17. I'm going to be 60 on Friday.
Come on. I think we need a big party. Just saying.
And it'll begin my 43rd year in ministry from when I first started. And when I was 17, I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I believe I'm called to preach. And he just looked at me with this real wry grin on his face. And he said, well, it's about time you figured it out. And I said, you knew? And he said, sure. I said, how long have you known? He said, oh, since you were 5. Now, he knew since I was 5, I figured it out when I was 17. But
Right.
he never told me. He never said anything to me about what he knew about me. But I began to, looking back in retrospect, I would see things in my years of development, even as a teenager. And I would sit with him in the living room of our house in Irvington, New Jersey, which is now a place where the state police rule the streets because it's so bad.
It is
You
bad
heard
there.
the scripture, fools rush in where angels dare to tread? Irvington, New Jersey would fit that today. But we would sit up to 2 and 3 in the morning in my teenage years. And there was not a subject we could not discuss. And we would talk work, we would talk politics, we would talk sex, marriage, dating, we would talk homiletics, hermeneutics, exegesis, alliteration, eschatology, we would talk Bible doctrine, theology, and many times most of those conversations or most of those topics would be in the same marathon session that might start at 10 at night and end at 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning from the time I was a teenager. I didn't know that he was pouring into me and prepping me for where he knew I was going. I figured it out years later. And my life was drastically changed on a fall day in 2015. And God, I didn't document the day. I wish I would have. But God made a statement to me in the fall of 2015, and this is what he said. It is time for you to do for others what Leo did for you. Now, I know what Leo did for me. I know how he poured into my life. I know how he took time with me. I know how he taught me and how he mentored me. And so I have a pattern to look at. And I always tell people this, look, if you don't like the way I do what I do, blame God and blame Leo. Because God said, do for others what Leo did for you. And so I'm obeying what Heavenly Father said, and I'm living up to the pattern of what my earthly, natural, and spiritual father did. And so I'm doing for others what Leo did for me. And so I've begun to operate now with my sons and daughters the same way that Leo operated with me. It's very hands-on. It's very intimate. It's very relational. It's very much investing time. And it's very much steering them towards where they are going without telling them where they are going. Now, Lisa, you probably want to jump in here because a lot of our relationship revolves around this very thing.
Well, especially when you said that you guys would sit and you would talk about lots of things, because just to let you guys know, when he would come, it would be like, okay, I'm having dessert. And now, as soon as like Touch by Prayer was done, it was like I brought the dessert out. We sat down at the table and sat for 2 to 3 hours. And Rob would be like, all right, I'm going to bed. Bye, Mike. Nice seeing you. Good broadcast.
Yeah, Sean Hannity's done. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to bed. That was it. But I would sit there because I didn't know. Like, I came from a Catholic background. And at that time I was working at a cosmetic counter, and God was like showing up and showing off. Like I was giving people words of wisdom and giving them words of encouragement, and I was prophesying, not I'm waiting for my husband to say something. I was prophesying to people and basically like just doing church at the cosmetic counter. And when I would see you, I would tell you about it. But then there were also times and instances, like the very first time I ever spoke at a church, I spoke at a Spanish church. And as I was praying, one of the women manifested a demon. And so I dealt with my first my first demon and my first area of deliverance. And so you were like the first person I called the next day. And I said, okay, so this is what happened. And she was wiggling on the floor and she looked like a snake. And and I'm telling you all these things and you're like, and it was funny because when I spoke it to a couple of people, they're like, and they were just like, yeah, whatever. And then they're like, oh wait, that was your first demon. Well, welcome to the club. When I started having encounters, when I started to see things, like I would say, does this sound like God? Is this God? And you would go to the scriptures and you would show me, you would teach me, you would use. And then you actually did a course about being not becoming a prophet. It wasn't becoming a prophet, but it was about the office of a prophet versus prophecy, because I think that was actually your first time you ever came on Touched by Prayer. And again, it was one of those things where you reached out to me because I had somebody on my broadcast that you happened to know, and you told me I did a good job. That's what you said.
Anthony Di Gregorio.
It was Anthony Di Gregorio. Yes.
Who came through Margie Florent.
Yes, because we're all connected.
We're all connected.
We're all connected. We're all connected. And so what happened was you reached out to me, and so then I reached out to you. And well, you can go ahead and say what God said when you first met me.
Well, the first time I came to your house to do that first Touched by Prayer, and it was a great program, and I made Rob laugh, and Rob was comfortable with me from that point on, and that's always good. So you don't want to make the spouse upset. That's never a good deal. And so we didn't do that, so we dodged that bullet. That was great. And we talked afterwards, and it was about a lot of stuff. But as I was leaving your house that night, this is what the Lord said to me. She's called to be a prophet. This is a long-term relationship, and you can help her if she will let you. I heard those three things walking out the front door of your house.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't tell you that till years later.
Nope. Not until 2018.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was a phone call. I don't know what's happening in this and this and this. And he's like, well, remember how I told you you're kind of here? Well, you're going into the wilderness. And I go, what? And he goes, you're going into the pit. And I go, what? I didn't want to go to no pit stop. I was not ready.
Well, you better tell them what the pit stands for.
Prophet in training.
There you go.
A prophet in training. And so I was going into the pit, and I was like, this does not sound fun, and nor does it sound comfortable. And I said, well, okay, well, when will I know I'm out? This is Pops telling me, okay? This is him, okay?
When you're out, you'll know.
That's what he said. He goes, when you're out, you'll know. Well, thank you for that wisdom. And there were times that I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is so hard. And I texted him. I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And blah, 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 blah. Cricket. Nothing. Now I could text him and say, can you talk or, whatever. Yeah. Give me like 20 minutes. I got some stuff to do, because he knows it's not a 20-minute conversation. Just saying. But So so when I texted that, it was like no response. And I was like, shoot. Suck it up, buttercup. Got to get through this. Okay. And so, and then there was the day, Lisa, you've come out of the wilderness. I'm like, I think I did. I think I did. You came out. You're good. Now we're going to do this. And so you were so kind. So we scheduled my ordination, or commissioning, excuse me, my commissioning, around my daddy's girl, so that all my friends could be there.
That was a May of, what was it,
That was
19?
May of 2019. Yep, May of 2019. Yep, yep. And so all my friends were there. People who have been doing life with me, who walked through some stuff with me. They were all there to witness me being commissioned into the office of a prophet. And I was very, very honored and very, very humbled, because it really is a process. And I didn't understand the process then. And I didn't appreciate the process then, because it wasn't fun. But I can say, coming out, I'm so grateful for the process. I'm so, so, so very grateful, because anytime that anything comes up against me and says, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And it's like, there's just that little piece in my heart saying, yeah, because I died in the wilderness so that I could come out to work for him, to work for God, to be his mouthpiece. I let go of Lisa in the wilderness. And if there's still some residual stuff, I'll deal with it. But I'm not willing to speak out of a vessel that isn't purified, that God can use. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it gave me a reverence and a true understanding about the weightiness of what that entails.
Well, everybody's process is different, but everybody goes through process.
Yes.
And depending on your destiny, depending on your call, depending what God has for you, will determine kind of what is part of your process. And see, people don't understand that process is not punishment.
Nope.
Process is getting you ready for promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about getting everything that is in you that is unlike God out of you, so that you can be a vessel that is meet and fit for the master's use.
Oh,
That's
man.
that's all process is about.
Yeah.
But many times while we're in it, we feel like, what did I do wrong? And the truth of the matter is, you didn't do anything wrong. You have to remember that it was the Spirit that led Jesus into the wilderness. He didn't go on his own accord. The Spirit led him into that wilderness experience. And so, just because you may find yourself in a wilderness experience, that doesn't mean you did something wrong,
Right.
nor does it mean that you miss God. It simply means that God is trying to take you from where you are to where he wants you to be. And he's working on your life, and he's developing your maturity, and he's developing your character so that you can walk in the fullness of your destiny. Now, it's hard to keep that in your mind when you're in the middle of it. Because when you're in the middle of it, sometimes you feel like, never mind, your prayers don't get past the ceiling. Sometimes you feel like your prayers don't get past the nose on your face. But that's when you have to be like David, and you have to encourage yourself in the Lord. And that's when you really need somebody in your life that you can go to. That's where you need a mother, a father, a big brother, a big sister, an auntie, or an uncle. You need somebody that has been through the process, that can hold your hand and walk you through that process, so that you don't throw in the towel and you don't quit, because it's not about punishment. It's about preparation for further seeds of greatness that are yet before you, that you haven't stepped into and they haven't hatched yet.
That's good. And the other thing too, it's really, if you look at anything that God builds, or no, anything that you build, I'm going to say this, like a potter. Let's go to the potter's wheel, right? Everybody goes to the potter's wheel. Let's go there. So when we look at the potter's wheel, the potter, when he thinks that the design is finished, he has to put it into the fire, into the kiln. Thank you. I was going to say Kindle, but I'm like, no, that's for the books. I couldn't, all I could think of was Kindle. I'm like, no, that's not it. So see, we get each other. Okay. So it has to go into the fire. I keep saying the fire because what it does is it gets out everything, and it doesn't go in just once. It goes in a couple of times in order for it to be completely baked, because there is a process that it has to go through. So first you put it in without any kind of shellac or anything, then you take it back out, and then you start putting the different, like the shellac or the glazes, because the first part of it is just getting it ready to receive that overcoat. And I kind of feel like, as you let go of yourself, as you let yourself go through that fire to have anything that is not of him burned out or burned off, that what you're doing now is you're preparing yourself to be washed with something new, washed with something fresh, and washed with something that actually has has a little bit more strength to it, because it's like that. Is it a clear resin that they put? I'm really bad, I don't know pottery, but it's like that
Yes,
clear
Renee.
coat. Ask Renee. Yeah, I know. Renee, chime in anytime. Anybody can help me here. But that's what I'm seeing. It's like that anointing kind of falls on you once you've gone through the process. The glaze. It's just a glaze. See, now if I would have talked about donuts, I would have gotten it. I would have been able to go through the donuts, and I would have been like, oh, it's glaze. Oh,
Joey Bag of Donuts.
Joey Bag of Donuts. I could totally do the donut thing, So, but you know what? It's like with baking bread. It's like with baking any kind of a cake. There's a purpose. Like when you bake bread, it has to rise, and then you beat it back down again, and then sometimes it has to rise the second time. There's things that you need to get the bubbles out. You need to get the stuff out of it, and that's basically what the process is, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we start to look at, if you don't have people who've gone through the process, that's why everybody loves Pinterest. Okay. Everybody loves Pinterest because you can go and find a recipe on Pinterest and you see what it's supposed to be like. But guess what? There are those really great people on Pinterest who put step by step what it's supposed to look like. So you can go, oh, yes, mine looks like this. Yes. Okay, I'm doing good. Okay, yep, we're good. And you can kind of count yourself and compare yourself when you have somebody who knows exactly what the finished product is going to look like, but you've never done it before. So you're kind of like, a prophetic Pinterest.
Well, I've never thought of myself that way, but
it works.
I'm just a guy that's trying to be obedient to a mandate that was given to me. Mm-hmm. And the mandate was to do what Leo did. And, now, there was a time in my life where I would tell people that I am the most fulfilled when I'm teaching and preaching. And Lisa, you've heard me say this many times over the last several years. And I would say I'm the most fulfilled when I'm teaching and preaching. That's not true anymore.
Nope.
I'm the most
and I saw the difference.
I'm the most fulfilled now when I get to pour into people's lives. And when I do mentoring sessions, whether they're small group sessions or whether they're one-on-one or, individual, or sitting in somebody's house, over the dinner table and talking, and all I'm doing is what Leo did. Leo would answer questions. He would speak out of life experience. And, a lot of the things that I do because it's what he did. Even down as, and you'll relate to this too. I'm sure when you were reading the book, this came to you, because one of the things that I said to you in your transition, and I was teaching you about the levels of prophetic gifting, and you had mastered really the first three, and you were on your way to four, which was to be commissioned as a prophet. And I said, it was almost like I was talking to the rich young ruler, and it was like, one thing thou lackest. And it's kind of where I came from in talking to you. And you were like, what's that? I said, you've got to develop your teaching and your preaching skill if you're going to stand in the office of the prophet. And I told you what books to buy, books to study to help you to learn about how to put together outlines and how to write things. And then I did for you what Leo did for me. In those days back then, we hand wrote sermons, and we had notebooks that were full of our sermon outlines. And so one day my dad just handed me his notebook, and he said, study my outlines. And he was like, I don't care if you preach them. I want you to study them so that you learn the format for organized, detailed thought, so that it's easy for people to follow you. Well, we don't handwrite things anymore. Now, we've come up a little bit. Everything is digital. We do everything on the computer, and we have all of our sermon outlines either as Word documents or as PDFs or both. And so when you were getting to the place where I'm saying, all right, one thing thou lackest, and I give you the homiletics and hermeneutics books to read and tell you to read them, I took my whole sermon outline folder and I compressed it and I emailed it to you.
Yes, you
and
did.
I said, study my outlines. Geez, where do you think I got that from?
But then what happened? I sent you I sent you something, and you said, or it might have been a Facebook Live, and you said, now, now, there you go, preach.
That's right.
Because
even James, who's on here, who watches you fairly regularly, he he said to me, he says, Dad, I was watching Lisa, and man, she was preaching like you. I said, well, where do you think she got it from?
That's right. That's right. But see, that's the whole thing. It's like when you start to, you're starting to move, and I always think about this, like you always want to be you always want to go higher, and you want to become better. And how do you become better? You hang out, or you want to be around the people that you want to be like. That's also good business sense. That's how people do business, is that they say, okay, so I want my business to grow. How do I make it grow? I'm going to follow the model of this particular person. And so that's the way that I wanted to grow. I wanted to learn, because God was, obviously he was using me. There was no question about that, because I wasn't even going out there looking for it, but you recognized it, and you started to guide me and to teach me and to help me to understand. Because when, I always say, I wish that there was a filled with the Holy Spirit book for dummies, because when the Holy Spirit hits you, it's like game on. And if you don't know how to play the game, you can really kind of, as you say, you can blow up. So you need to have a foundation that keeps you grounded in the word, in the truth, so that you don't get all, what do you call it, crunchy granola, fruity and
Fruity,
nutty.
flaky, and nutty.
There you go, fruity,
That's a
flaky, and nutty.
Michaelism.
Yeah, it's a Michaelism. So, when you start to look for someone, you want to see somebody who actually is doing the things that they say and being able to you're learning from them, so of course you want to be like them. So that's what I started to do, and I really believe that touch by prayer was such a gift from God, because it brought me around people like you and like Margie Floran and Margie Mormon and Angie Dorman and of course Kelly McCann. That's basically what it did, because it opened up an entire world of all of these incredible pastors, preachers, teachers, prophets, and evangelists and apostles that could help to train me up in the way that I'm supposed to go.
And that's the way it's supposed to work. You see, God has always intended that fathering and leadership be multi generational. It has always been the biblical pattern. It's as old as the first 5 books of the Bible. Some people think, spiritual fathering, it's like the new Christian buzzword. No, it's not. It's as old as the first 5 books of the Bible. Say, where is it in the first 5 books of the Bible? I am so glad you asked. The first 5 books of the Bible talks about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so we see that there's 3 generations. And it was always the purpose. And even as you look through the law, it tells them that as you're walking on the way, teach these things to your children. And that's always been the biblical pattern, is that fathers would instill truth into their sons, and they would teach these things to their children. In fact, in one place it says teach diligently. And we see that it goes from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. Even as God is revealing his name and who he is, he says that he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, showing that he's interested in generations. And then, of course, we come over into the New Testament and we get into the book of Acts. And here's Stephen standing before the religious leaders of his day, and he's recounting Jewish history to the religious leaders of the day. And he says, and Abraham became the father of Isaac and circumcised him. And Isaac became the father of Jacob, and he circumcised him. And Jacob, the 12 patriarchs, which of course we know became the 12 tribes of Israel. And so now, as Stephen is rehearsing this history, he goes from just Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that God identified himself as back under the law. Now Stephen says Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the 12 patriarchs. Now it's going 4 generations as opposed to 3. And then you have Apostle Paul, who writes to his son Timothy. Now you have to realize that Timothy was his son. When Paul wrote to the church at Corinth, he said, I don't have anybody that I can send to you except my son Timothy. And he said, he will tell you what I preach and what I teach in all of the churches. In other words, nobody got the message of Paul better than Timothy. Nobody got the heart of Paul better than Timothy. In one place, he calls him his faithful son. And another place, he calls him his beloved son. What an interesting phrase that is. Sounds like something that God the Father spoke out of the excellent glory on the Mount of Transfiguration and at the baptism of Jesus. And that term, beloved son, actually is very important in Jewish culture, because that's talking about the time of the maturity of the son, that they are actually a weos, a mature son, that they are ready to run the family business. And that's what that declaration means. And so Paul refers to Timothy as a faithful son, as a beloved son. I don't have anybody that I can send but him. And when he writes to Timothy, he says Timothy. So you have Paul writing to Timothy, 2 generations. And he says, Timothy, commit these things to faithful men. That's 3 generations, who will be able to teach others also, 4 generations. So in the New Testament, we see Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the 12 patriarchs. We see Paul, Timothy, faithful men who teach others also. In both of those cases, it's 4 generations now. And so God has always been about multi-generational sonship. He's been about fathers pouring into sons, being diligent to pour into sons. Even look at Jesus when he's about to ascend up into heaven. And in Matthew 28, he tells them, as they're with him, he tells them to go and to teach these things. Whatsoever that I have taught you, teach these things to others also. And so that's always been the purpose of God, is that when you're here, you pour into those that are up and coming behind you, so that they in turn will pour into those that are coming up behind them, so that they in turn will pour into others that are coming up behind them. That's always been the purpose of God, from father to son, from father to son, from father to son. And what we've had has been a very poor example of fathers that were willing to pour into sons. But we are living in the days of the Malachi mandate. And the Malachi mandate is found in Malachi chapter 4. And it says that before the great and terrible day, or the great and dreadful day of the Lord, that God will cause the hearts of the fathers to be turned to the sons, and the sons to the fathers. I want you to notice that it does not say that the hearts of the sons will be turned to the fathers and then the fathers to the sons. No, it says the hearts of the fathers are turned to the sons, and then in reciprocal fashion, the hearts of the sons are in turn turned to the fathers. And so we're living in an hour that God is raising up a new breed of father. God is raising up male fathers, and female fathers are being raised up in this hour that have the heart of Heavenly Father, that they want to pour into another generation, that they want to do for others what somebody has done for them. And even as I read that dedication early on, that I was dedicating to my mother and my father for what they poured into me, I have become what I call a member of the Isaac Timothy generation. It's that middle generation that knows how to walk as a son to a father, but knows how to walk as a father to the next generation that's upcoming. You see, Isaac honored Abraham, and he walked as a son to Abraham, but he also became a father to Jacob. Timothy walked as a son to Paul, and he honored Paul, but at the same time, he poured into faithful men. And so we find ourselves now where there are those that have gone before us. There are those that have paved a way for us. And it is our job to be the connector of the generations. And we have to grab the hand of the generation that has gone before us and honor them, and at the same time reach with the other hand and pour into the generation that's coming behind us. And we are the link in the middle that joins those generations together and pulls them together. And so the mandate that has been given is something that is not new. It is not new. It's as old as the Old Testament, but God is breathing on it again. He's breathing on it and bringing revelation to it again. And I am watching leaders literally all over the United States. I'm in relationship with so many authentic, real leaders, and I'm watching them change. Even people that maybe at one time when I first met them, I didn't even like them. And now I like them because I'm watching what God's doing in their hearts. Lord knows when I started teaching and preaching, I didn't think like this. Was the furthest thing from my mind. I just wanted to scream and baptize the first 3 rows with spit and line them up and mow them down. That's all I wanted to do. I made people that came to my sermons feel like they were at a Gallagher concert with a poncho on because Sledge-O-Matic Framinator was going to get them and they were going to get spit and sweat and who knows. I didn't care about pouring into anybody. But God had to go and change everything and mess everything up by saying it's time for you to do for others what Leo did for you. And I'm watching this phenomenon right now. And maybe you've not had a great example of a father. Some people have a hard time even relating to Heavenly Father because they've had such poor examples of earthly fathers. You know, I grew up in a situation that I thought what my dad and I had was normal. I didn't know that most people did not have it. I thought everybody lived like I lived. And then I went on my first missionary trip with my dad in 1987. And we were out in Kenya. And the bishop that we were working with, he said, I don't understand. I don't understand you two. And my dad said, what don't you understand? He said, well, you're laughing and you're joking and you're ha 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 all the time. And then you come into church and you preach and miracles happen. And my dad said, well, isn't that normal? And he was, apparently it's not because he had never seen anything like it. And then he made this statement to my dad and he said, I wish I could have with my sons what you have with yours. And my dad said, you can. You just have to change. And that was the beginning of the light going on in my life. And this was 1987. It was the beginning of the light going on in my life that maybe what I was living, though normal to me, was not normal to most. And then it was probably 10, 12 years later, we are in Estonia on a mission trip. And Dad and I are doing a men's meeting as father and son. And we hear exactly the same words. And the men said, I wish I could have with my son what you have with yours. And again, my dad answered, you can. You just have to change. And so I began to realize that many did not know this type of sonship. Many did not know this type of intimate relationship where you could talk about anything and everything, and it was okay. And so when God really dealt with me and changed my whole perspective of ministry, it was no longer about screaming and preaching, although I still can scream and preach from time to time. It still happens. But now it's much more important that I invest in another generation. It's much more important that I pour into those that feel like, I need this. And so, my life is totally different. I am not the same man today in 2022 that I was in the fall of 2015 when God made that statement. The only thing I know is when God said that to me, it was like somebody took a quarter and dropped it in a payphone or dropped it in a jukebox, and it went clink. And in my spirit, God dropped the Father's heart that I had never had before. How it was going to manifest, I did not know. How I was going to fulfill it, I did not know. But I started by saying yes and being willing to be willing. And the rest, as they say, is history.
So now you have a lot of spiritual kids.
I don't know about a lot. I mean, this whole idea of I got 100 spiritual kids. No, you don't.
Oh, please.
Because
No,
you
I'm
can't
not
have
talking
relationship with 100 spiritual
No,
kids.
you can't. No.
But I've got somewhere between 10 and 15.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because like like what you did for me is what I try to do for other people. I jokingly call myself a gold digger because I pull the gold out of people. That's like my heart. And that's just, with Daddy's Girl, the women's conferences I do. It really is about helping women to understand who they are and pull out their identity as daughters. But I even had you come to you were the first guy that I had. You were the first male that I had at a Daddy's Girl.
Oh, that was an unusual day. I'll never forget that day. Renee brings that up to me.
Yep.
She'll never forget. And Derek Lynn talks about that day, and she's
Yep.
like, "I'll never
Mhm.
forget that day."
Mhm. Because the father talked to me and he said, "Okay." He says, "Bring Michael." And he says, "And you have him give a father's blessing."
Until I got there, and God messed that up.
No, he still gave a father's blessing, but you just did it a little differently. But it was still a blessing.
A
It
little.
it was
I didn't give a blessing.
well, you
Not
kinda
really.
did.
I
You gave
gave an
listen,
impartation, but not
you gave
really
an
a blessing.
impartation, but you embraced a person for who they are. You gave a blessing. Sometimes blessings aren't just things that you speak. Sometimes a blessing is how you react.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a day that the mushy apostle definitely showed up.
Yep, he gave us all hugs. Nikki's already doing it. Nikki's like, "He gave us all hugs." But now the cool part is that one of the ladies that was there, she brought her son, Zion. And Zion, he sees in the spirit. He's a very good seer, and he saw angels, and he saw this angel standing behind you, and he saw this light shooting out of you
Well,
because
I
it
knew
was
I knew something was happening. I didn't,
mhm,
it was not my plan to do what
mhm.
and it was weird because I walk in and, "Oh, Michael, what are you doing here? Are you preaching?" "No. What are you doing here?"
Uh-huh.
"I'm on assignment." "Well, what's the assignment?" "Talk to Lisa."
Well, because I didn't want people to know
Yeah.
because we were if this was in 2020. This was in 2020. I was after well, it was during the scamdemic,
Yeah.
and,
It was.
people were afraid. People were very frightened, but God still told me to go ahead and have this conference, and so we did it. And, the Lord was telling me how he said that the women who were going to come, that they haven't been around people, and they so desperately needed this, and they needed to be hugged, is what he actually told me. But, so I did that. I mean, I was hugging everybody. "Aren't you afraid of COVID?" No. So, God told me hug people, I'm hugging people. But when you came, I said, to come and give a father's blessing because I actually I'm sorry. I think who was it? John Paul Jackson. John Paul Jackson read a father's blessing or gave a father's blessing to a broadcast. It was so beautiful and so powerful that it really kind of changed people. And so I knew that you would be the one who should do it. And so you came and you did, and it was really, really cool. It was really, really cool. And the things that you've taught, the things that you've guided, the things that you've poured into, I can't even begin to thank you. I just can't because it's just I just don't have words. And you know how I feel about you. But there just are no words. And I really do I just really believe in my heart of hearts that when God puts people into your life, that there are reasons, and you were for a reason, not just a season, but for a reason. And I believe, like you said, in a lifetime.
Yeah. Well, when God tells you this is a long-term assignment.
I'm an assignment. And the thing that I love that you said is that if she'll let you, because man, you know me. I'm just
No, you
saying.
were a buck and bronc a time or two.
Well, because you hear so many things. especially as a woman, you hear so many things. And so the way that you and I began our relationship is you were like a big brother, which was interesting because my oldest brother, we have a relationship where he is like my brother, but there are times that he's like my father.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of the same thing. So when you start to when you start to understand that there is wisdom in those who have gone before you, I think that's where you can appreciate it. You've appreciated everything that Papa Fram, Leo, your dad, poured into you. And because of the things he's poured into you, you've poured it into others. So let me ask you a question. This book is about to come out. What is it that you hope that this book does? Because it's a really short read.
Yeah, it's only going to be about 60 pages. It's not going to be really long. I wanted it to be very, very practical.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear a lot of stories about father failures. We never hear stories about when it's done right.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to show an example of when it's done right. I wanted to show the legacy behind what I do, the reason why I do what I do, and how my life has been impacted by what was poured into me. That's really what this is about. I want you to get a glimpse into the relationship of a father son dynamic the way that God intended it. And I don't think a lot of people have seen the real deal. They've not
Right.
seen a real relationship the way that God intended it. They've
Right.
not seen a father pour into a son. And if I can show that in a very real practical way, back it up with biblical principle as well as with true life stories. And some of the stuff, I mean, I throw myself under the bus fairly regularly in the book. I talk about, the things that my dad said to me because I was hard headed. And I mean, there are a lot of quotes of Leoisms in the book, which are expressions that we attribute to my dad. So we call them Leoisms because his name is Leo. But I mean, there are many Leoisms that are in the book, and there are many things that he said to me and drilled into me that, believe it or not, there are things that I needed to hear. And I get very plain and very real about that stuff. But all of those things are things that have molded me. There's a couple of things that really stand out. One of them was he said to me early on in ministry, and, I was full of fire and passion and vitality. And one day he just said to me, son, you just need some seasoning. And that only comes with time and experience. Now, dear Lord God, when that man said that to me, I had no frame of reference for what he was trying to tell me. And it took several years for me to come to the place that I began to understand what he was trying to tell me. And many times when we're early on and we're going to go set the world on fire, we think we are the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we realize that really we're an accident going somewhere to happen. And it's that kind of wisdom that was poured into me, like, slow your roll, son. You ain't there yet. Another thing that really transformed my life was when he was teaching me how to do outlines and how to be an organized speaker. One of the knocks against being disciplined and organized as a speaker is, well, if you're disciplined and organized, you can't have the anointing and you can't flow with the Holy Ghost. And I remember my dad made one statement to me, and he said this: you do not have to choose between being disciplined and organized and being anointed. You can be both at the same time. And it's something that changed my life. And so I can preach with fire, I can preach with passion, I can run the aisles and baptize the first 3 rows with spit, or I can line upon line detailed teach. But neither one of them has any bearing on whether or not I'm anointed. The anointing comes by my relationship with Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And organization just makes me easy to follow when I stand in the pulpit. And that's all that's about. And so it's practical pearls of wisdom from a father to a son that now I take and I pour into my kids, just like
That's
he
so
poured
good.
into me. And that's what this whole book is about. It's doing for others what Leo did for you.
I love that. And it's, you know what? It's really a beautiful tribute to your dad, too.
Yeah, it is.
I think that now has he gotten a chance to read it?
Not yet.
Okay.
He
That's
has
going to
not.
be
He has not read it. He's sewn into it, but he's not read it yet. All
right,
he and
right.
mom know is they know some of the endorsements that have been written for the book,
Mhm.
and I read them the dedication because the book
Mhm.
really focuses for the most part on dad because it's from father to
Yeah.
son. So,
Right.
so in the dedication, I didn't want to leave mom out.
Of
So that's
course.
why in the dedication, I focused most of the dedication on her so that
Mhm.
she would not be left out of this because she has just as much to do with who I am and what I am. And so I made sure that mom was recognized.
Oh, that's so sweet. And I also want to say something about the prophets, how prophets are also I always think of Samuel because Samuel was a father to both Saul and to David. He poured into both of them to help them to be kings. There's something about like as we pour in the wisdom and the knowledge and the things that God speaks into us and we pour it in, you could be pouring into somebody who is going to be very influential. And don't you want to make sure that you're pouring the right things and the right seeds? Because basically, everything that you have poured into me, it's been my choice whether to use it, to live it, to actually take wisdom from it. It's always been a choice. And so, as a parent, especially when we have kids, we can sometimes tell our children to do something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they do. But when we do see that the words that we have spoken into them in use, as we start to see our children starting to mimic or imitate the things that they've poured in, it really it just makes you feel like, okay, I think I'm doing something right.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the whole thing about a father and a son is that just like with earthly parents, we want our kids to do better than us. We want our kids to have it better than us. We want them to be more secure than we were. Spiritually, it's exactly the same.
Yep.
If you're a spiritual parent, you want your kids to do more than you did.
Yep.
You want your kids to go further than you did. And, you know, I quote this often, and I pilfered it from somebody who pilfered it from somebody. And for all I know, that person pilfered it from somebody. I don't know.
It's that
But,
good that it needed to be pilfered.
and you know, it's pilfered. A lot of people say it now, but it's absolutely the truth. The true attitude of a father is this: my ceiling is your
Is
floor,
your floor. Yep.
and where I end is where you begin, because you have the benefit of all of my experience. And you're going to go further than I have ever gone. You're going to do more than I have ever done. And God is giving us right now in this hour fathers that do not have the heart of Saul. You can't be a father and be in competition with your kids. You cannot do it. And see, Saul was jealous because he only slayed thousands and David is 10,000s. But God is raising up fathers in this hour that celebrate their kids. They're not in competition with their kids. And if you slay 10,000 and I slay 1,000, I'm your cheerleader. Say, go, baby, go. Go do
Mhm.
what I did not do. Go further than I go. Reach more people than I could reach. Go into platforms that I'm not on. Reach people that I can't reach because you have talents and abilities and passions and giftings that I don't have. And so this has become the attitude. And you know this because we talk about this stuff all the time. And I tell you, you have this disarming, natural way of conversation that disarms people and reaches people that I could never reach because of how you're gifted and how you're graced. And you're on all these platforms that I'm not on. And truth be told, if I was on half of these platforms, I probably wouldn't have anybody watch me because I can minister to a certain segment of society, but they're not people that were made for a Michael voice. I can't minister to everybody. But God's got an awful lot of tools in his toolbox, and there's a tool in God's toolbox to reach every person. And so, in some cases, it may be a Lisa voice, or it may be an Amy voice. It may be a Ron or a Renee or a Nikki or a Krista. Who knows who it's going to be? But God's got people, and my job is to equip them, pour into them, love them, support them, and make them be everything that they can be so that they can run their race, be successful, and at the end hear, well done, good and faithful servant, as they stand before the Lord like Paul and say, I have run my race and I finished my course. And if I can get you to that point, I've been a success.
I love that. I love you. I love the fact that, and you're still doing mentoring, correct?
I am still doing mentoring. Right now, we have 2 sessions a month that run on Tuesday evenings, and they are 3 hours long. We do it by Zoom. It's private, it's closed, it's not recorded, it's not broadcast anywhere, and nothing is off limits. We talk about anything and everything that people want to talk about. And what happens in the mentoring group stays
Stays
in the
in the
mentoring group.
mentoring
It's
group.
like
Mhm.
Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What
Yep.
happens in the mentoring group stays in the mentoring group. Sometimes it's theology. Sometimes it's, what about this? What about this scripture? What about this? Let's talk doctrine. We've talked eschatology. We've talked, I had this dream. I believe the Lord said this. I'm in this situation in my life. What do you think I should? It runs the gamut.
But
The
isn't that
groups,
a family?
oh, it's absolutely a family. And one of the things
Mhm.
that has come out of this is that many of those that are regular, that are part of these groups, they literally bond with each other.
Mhm.
And so after a season of time, because it doesn't happen initially, just like in our relationship when it started as a friendship.
Right.
And then it became, Lisa, sometimes I feel like I'm your big brother.
Right.
And then it became, Lisa, sometimes I feel like I'm your big brother, and sometimes I feel like I'm your father.
Right.
And then it was like, you're my father. It was gradual. It didn't just like boom, on
Mhm.
pops.
Right.
And with the mentoring group, it's the same thing, gradually as relationships build, God will knit a heart of a father with a child.
Yep.
God has to do it. And it's something that's supernatural and just naturally outflows. And it happens on both sides. But what
Yep.
happened, and Krista just typed it in here. She typed in, "We are family,"
Yeah, I put it
because
up.
that's what we don't do. We are family. We are
We're
family.
family. That's it.
And so they literally become like, I have brothers and sisters in the Lord now. And so I have spiritual children that are all over the country, and they interact with each other, and they actually share things with each other. They have a support network and system that
Right.
has grown out of these mentoring programs. And
Right.
those that are in them for a length of time, usually what happens is my heart gets really knit to them and they get really knit to me. And so if they stay for a long period of time, that usually is what happens. And I become Pops or Papa Mike or
Or
a
Papa Mike.
Pops or a Pop Sauce or what other
Or
variations.
a
I've got more.
Popsel.
Yeah, I got more nicknames now than I know what to do with. And it's all out of love and endearment and whatever is,
Mhm.
it is, it's fine. But yeah,
Well,
we still do that, and it's twice a month on Tuesday nights.
okay, and then also you are starting something new, which is a new broadcast, which is a new, so you wanna talk a little bit about that?
The new broadcast it's on Facebook, it's on Roku, I believe it's on YouTube, and it's called the Love and Unity Broadcast.
Mhm.
And I air every Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. So if you go, and it's headquartered out of California, so we give the
Mhm.
Pacific, and obviously the East Coast is 3 hours later. So
Right.
at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific, I am on every Wednesday. It's a half hour, and it's no interview, it's no discussion, it's strictly teaching and preaching. And the name of the broadcast is Maturing the Sons of God.
There
And
you go. There's the sons thing. Mhm.
it's about that we don't have immature sons, that we have mature sons. AF Soldier 1980, it varies depending on my schedule, and it varies depending on the people in the group schedule. We usually schedule them out a month or two in advance, and everybody kind of puts their calendars together. It depends really on what I have going on, what kind of trips, what kind of whatever. And
Well,
and
I
so
can tell you he would be interested in the 2 and the 4 because I do the one oh, no, I do no, never mind. He could do either one. I'm thinking Mondays. Never mind. Never mind.
So it really varies, but you can take it offline. You can send me a note. You can email me, or send me a private message through Facebook, or yell at Lisa and she'll tell you how to get in touch with me or whatever, and we can certainly talk about that. But the new broadcast, Maturing the Sons of God, there's a verse in the Amplified of Ephesians 4:14, and in the Amplified, when it says, no longer like children, where it's like no longer children tossed to and fro, in the
Right.
Amplified, in parentheses, it says spiritually immature.
Mm.
And I believe that we have many that in the church are spiritually immature. And so the whole goal is to really do basic line upon line, precept upon precept, teaching and preaching to get people grounded in the word,
Yep.
so that they're not tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine, and they're not spiritually immature. So
Exactly.
that's what that program is all about.
That's so good. I think you might have somebody who might be interested. Just saying. I have a bunch of really great people who need somebody like you in their life. That's why I bring you on because I like to share. Sharing is caring. So I'll share my pops with people. Just saying.
Well, we share Derek Lynn now.
We do. I know. And Renee and Ron
And
because I
well,
knew them
yeah,
first.
yeah, Ron and Renee. In fact, I'm going to go see Derek Lynn the end of May, I believe.
Is it the end of May?
I believe so. I
Yeah.
believe it's right before Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to go see
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. But you might not be going alone.
Okay,
I might be coming up. Uh-huh.
okay, okay. Somebody's
Because I
got to
haven't
help
seen her.
me.
Go ahead.
Who is Steph Chack?
Oh, that's Stephanie. She's my friend. She
Okay,
loves Michael. Yep.
Yeah, see, we like my see, you have a lot of friends and I don't know who they are. So
Well, that and see, that's the whole thing is that, like I said, I would love for you to, I know it's hard in the mornings, but I would really love for you to come on Crown Chats in the morning because I have a very different like audience. But I think that it could be really good. So we
well,
might have to talk about that.
we can talk about that. You
Because
know,
there might be like a Monday that you don't have work.
it's just it's crazy right now. There's a lot of transition in my, but it seems like early in the morning is when things get busy with work for
Mhm.
me. And that's
Mhm.
when it's like follow up on orders and quotes and stuff like that. And then as the morning
Mhm.
goes on, it kind of loosens up. And then later on, friends on Facebook. Okay, well, you'll have to send me a note and tell me that you're this on whatever program that is with the yellow icon, because I don't know what that is.
Oh, that's D Live.
Well, like I said, I don't know what that is. So
I'm
you'll have to
trying.
tell
I
me
want
who
to
you
get you on
are.
D
And
Live. I want to get you on D Live. And I want to get you on Cloud Hub and I want to get you on mm, you could go on Twitch. I'm also on Twitch and Foxhole. So, I have a lot of different platforms.
I see that.
Yeah, Cloud Hub is really good though. I have a lot of people who follow on Cloud Hub. So, but think we'll try and figure out if we could do. I had Derek Lynn one morning.
I
I had
saw
her.
part of that
Yeah,
when you
that
had
she was
Derek Lynn on.
so good. Yeah. Oh, look there. This is producer Ryan. Truth Social's coming. Yeah, Truth Social's going to be another one. So, but right now I'm on D Live, Foxhole, Cloud Hub, Twitch, and well, soon to be Truth Social. Soon to be. Ah, Crambone's in the house. Yep. So I'm just saying.
Krista, you hush, girl.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
That's
Listen,
that's my daughter, and that's my daughter in Alaska.
well, I'm just saying that there are so many people who really like I said, when I find somebody that I love to promote them. Just what I do. And so I love you and so I want everybody to know you. So
Well,
there you go.
it's mutual, honey. It's mutual.
I know. I know. So I'm excited about your book because it's not going to be the first book. It's not your first book, but you have more books coming because God's
Work.
about, oh, I'm
I'm
going to prophesy over you.
I'm working on one right now that is
Yeah.
another one that's been on the back burner
Mhm.
that I'm working on little by little.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
goal is to try to put it out by the end of the year. And that one's on the prophetic.
Yeah, well, I'm just hearing that God is going to open up some areas for you to be able to write, to do more writing and to do more instructions.
I'm working on it.
There's like a manual. I see like a manual, almost not kind of, how like they do devotionals with like the checklist and stuff, but it's like a workbook. It's like a workbook. That's what it is. It's a workbook. That's what I'm seeing. I see that Papa wants you to write a workbook to help people to decipher him, like it's about deciphering the voice of God. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Does that make sense to you?
Well, we'll see.
You
We'll
got you got
see.
all quiet and still. I'm like, okay, maybe not. But that I can see, I see like a workbook. And it's almost like I see like just this workbook with these different pages. So it's about like it has something to do with like hearing God and putting in and like because I feel like there's a lot of deception that's coming. And so there's going to need to be places where there can be truth. Does that make sense?
Well, there is a lot. Well, there's not just deception coming, there's deception here now.
Well, it's going to get worse. It's going to get
That I
worse.
believe.
We're where people, they're not gonna know who is God. Like, is this God? Isn't this God? Does that make sense?
Yep.
But that's what I'm seeing. Yeah. So, but there's more books. But I think it's interesting that I saw almost like this workbook, because I've never seen that before for you.
Well, it could
Huh.
be.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
That's one you take and you put on the back burner and you
Okay.
just let it simmer until it's done, and you bring it up to the front burner and
Yeah.
go with
Oh,
it.
well, I got a thumbs up from Krista.
That's it. My kids are ganging up on me.
Sorry. If you're getting a snort, it's really cracking me up. I'm sorry.
Listen, you're not very spiritual. Y'all are laughing.
I know. Oh, so wait. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna put this up really quick because I don't know if you've seen that I have this up here. Hold on.
Oh man, I remember that day.
I do too.
That was at America's Keswick.
Yep.
That
Yep.
was Kelly's book launch,
Yep.
and
We
you
got
and me
smacked.
and Eddie Torregosa were
Yep.
together.
Yep.
Kelly asked me to do a blessing over her book, and I prophesied and preached and went cuckoo.
Yeah.
And then you, me, and Eddie ministered to Jill
Uh-huh.
because of her messed up ankle, and we laid hands
Oh
on her,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
she
yeah,
got
yeah.
healed. And
Yep.
we got drunk in the spirit, and somebody took that picture of us drunk in the spirit.
Yep. Yep. Isn't that funny?
That
Isn't
is
that
funny.
funny? Yeah, I have it. I love that picture. It's one of my favorite pictures. So I have it. But it's joy is my weapon.
Oh, I
Because
remember that day.
we got so snockered. We got so snockered with the joy.
Oh man.
That's what happens sometimes when you get us all together. We just start laughing because the joy
Well,
just hits,
the
and it's
scripture
like,
says, "Do not be drunk with wine, wherein is dissipation, but be filled with the Spirit." Well, we was
there you
filled.
go. And we was filled to overflowing.
We was filled. That what you call the new wine?
that was the new wine. That's so funny. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you have a new broadcast that's going to be out every Wednesday at
Every Wednesday.
5:30. Every
Yep.
Wednesday at 5:30. You have your
Right
mentoring.
now, I'm teaching on the doctrine of laying on of hands.
Ooh. Okay. And it's not like what does it say? I'm going to lay hands on you and it's not going to be for a blessing.
That's another Michaelism. I'm going to lay hands on you, and it's not for blessing.
That's right. So then also on Thursdays you do Facebook Lives. Yes,
Every
still
Thursday night at 8
every
o'clock.
Thursday night, 8 o'clock.
And that's when I have either a guest
Yes.
or guests.
Yes.
And this Thursday night, I have Prophet Mike Hendrick from Canada.
Okay.
And we will be talking about servanthood and sonship.
Okay.
This Thursday night with Prophet Mike.
Okay. You need to do another thing with me and the girls.
You and the girls. Which girls?
It was me, it was Danny, it was who else was
That
with
was kids. That I had my kids on.
The kids. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I had Jimbo on, and I think George was on. You,
Yep,
Kat, Danny, Wendy.
Yep, and Wendy. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, we called that, I believe, a real look at sonship or something like that, and it was that's up on my Facebook page back in videos. It's also up on my YouTube page.
And I think that AF, the producer Ryan, I think he put up your YouTube page. So, and if people are interested in finding out more about you, they can, of course, go to, hold on, let me get you down here.
All
Hold
you
on.
have to do is go on Google and type in Michael Fram, and I pop up.
Right. Or you can also go to his website, which is Prophetic Destiny Ministries International.org. So there you go. Boom.
That will also
Because that will also get you there, because you also have written some blogs.
Yep, I have some blogs that are on my website. I also have blogs that are on WordPress.
Yep.
And I have some really, really old blogs that are on Blogger.
Right. Right. And the
But
other
now
thing,
I put all my YouTube videos on Blogger.
okay. And so you're also going to, do you also put your Facebook, you put your Facebook videos up on YouTube, right?
Well, now when I stream them, they go to YouTube and Facebook both.
So AF, so Ryan, you can watch it. So there you go. He's not allowed on Facebook. They don't like him very much.
They don't
like
him?
me. They don't like me either. I think
Yeah,
one
well,
person
so far I
is
haven't done
watching.
too much to tick off the Facebook powers that be so far. But
I did.
That's something strange.
I did. So he can watch it.
I'm on YouTube. In fact, that's how I met James. James found me on YouTube because he's not on Facebook.
There you go. So we all get connected. Okay, so you can see Michael Fram every Wednesday. You can see him on Thursday. If you want to go back and see the reruns, you can go onto his YouTube channel. You'll find me. I did a couple different broadcasts with him.
And I've done several with you, and I have them all listed on a playlist.
Yep. So yeah, it's actually, you can go to his YouTube channel, and I think it's I'm listed, right? I'm in a playlist.
Yeah, there's a playlist that says with Prophetess Lisa Perna.
There you go. So if you ever want to
see, about 7 or 8 videos there.
So, and we always have fun. Always have fun. This has always been fun. So welcome to year 8. Can you believe I've been doing this for 8 years?
Wow.
8 years.
And I knew you when.
I know you knew me when. I know you knew me when. Hey, I'll tell you, there is, and I'm just going to say one other thing that I'm going to brag about my my pops. He can cook. So when I do have a party and he does walk through the door, he's ushered into the kitchen.
Apron in hand.
That's it. And he does the same thing at Renee's house. Renee has a beautiful kitchen. So, and you cook over there too, which I haven't had.
And I cook when I go to Odessa.
Yep.
And I cooked when I was in Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. I cooked at Don Hughes's house.
There you go. Well, we're gonna have to have a big cookout. We're gonna have to do something. It'll be fun. Okay, so, and if people are interested, if they go to your website, if they want to drop a little something, because books are expensive. I'm just saying. So, and is there a place if somebody would like to get a copy of your book that they can pre-order it?
Right now, we are doing pre-orders for the book. $14.
Okay.
Gets you a numbered, signed first edition.
Woohoo!
PayPal.me/prophetic destiny. Now I got to look it up and see what it is, because I don't normally quote it. I normally type it.
Okay. PayPal.me.
Yeah. /prophetic destiny min. I believe that's what it is. Let me see. I can tell you for sure.
Let's see. Is that it?
PayPal.me/prophetic destiny min. Yep, that's it.
Boom.
So
there you go.
If you go there, $14, and Make sure I have your address, and we will send you a first edition numbered and signed.
Okay.
Postage paid for $14.
Okay. And the one other thing, are you going to be doing any speaking anywhere anytime soon here in Jersey or around?
This coming
Derek
Sunday,
Lynn.
this coming
Uh-huh.
Sunday, I will be speaking at KDI in Pemberton.
Okay.
That's the only thing locally. And then I'm supposed to be speaking in a town called Rivera, which is down by Corpus Christi in Texas in the beginning of April.
Okay.
And then I have the end of May. I'm supposed to be with Derek Lynn in
Yep.
upstate New York. And then I have some events coming up with the Love and Unity movement or the Love and Unity Fellowship.
Awesome.
So there's a lot of stuff going on with that as well.
There you go. So you can find the Framinator in many, many places if you are interested in finding him.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming back on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm going to just put you off to the side. Hold on one second. We'll say goodbye off air. But thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this has blessed you. If you would like to go over to, of course, Prophetic Destiny Ministries International.org, you can go find out all of Michael's, you can find out all of his dates. You can find out all of his broadcasts. You can get his blogs. You can also get his book if you would like to go over and get your copy of his new book, From Father to Sons, by Apostle Michael Fram. You can go over to paypal.me/prophetic destiny min, and you can go and get your copy. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this has blessed you. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, 8:30, Crown Chats. So it's going to be fantastic. This Friday, Crown Chats, I actually have John Natali from John Natali Ministries. We are going to talk about what God is saying about what is going on. Just saying. So you definitely want to tune in. So thank you guys for tuning in. Have an awesome night. And don't forget to go out and touch someone. Love you guys. And I'll see you in the morning. Bye-bye.